It's good to see you here, Newton-Neck. Welcome to Shadowstar. Welcome to this stats review video for Star Trek Online's most recently added legendary bundle. As the date of recording, of course. Allow me to introduce you to the Chronos 1, the legendary Vor'cha Command Support Battlecruiser. Yes, that's a mouthful. Now, before we actually get into the review, let me just give you this little bit of information. She is limited presently within a legendary bundle, so you will have to require to get this bundle. As a date of release, say tomorrow, or today on this video going up, you may have the cheapest opportunity to get a hold of her, as there will be a Zen sale going on. But right now, the legendary bundle is on sale and you can acquire it for around about £120. We'll be keeping this in mind as we go through the review, but I will not be discussing every aspect of the bundle itself, only this ship. Yes, the bundle is worth it. You've got a good chance of getting some very good additional ships out of Selection Infinity boxes, and the low buy on sale at the moment will allow you to get a low buy ship, if not some decent equipment, to really give your legendary ship an extra punch, like I have actually done. Then combining that with 4 legendary ships, keeping in mind that so long as you are happy with at least 2 of them, this bundle will equal the cost. So, having said this, Stage 1 will take a brief look at customization, Stage 2 will break down the stats, traits and consoles, discuss what that means for the vessel, and Stage 3 will take her into action. Finally, Stage 4 is the conclusion, whether or not I'm actually going to recommend the ship out of the bundle. Or the bundle itself. Shall we begin? Okay, so we have the Chronos 1. Kempek's Chronos 1. Now, for those that don't know, Kempek, in canon, is a powerful warrior and a great politician for the Klingon Empire. In fact, he had a lot of influence, and it was a great part of the High Council. And you can think of this variation of the Vor'cha as a ship specifically designed for members of the High Council. I would say the Chancellor, but you may also possibly, I would say, see this with House leaders for those on the High Council. Admittedly, I did criticize Cryptic when I first saw the visuals of this ship. I thought they were being extremely lazy, because all I could really see that they had changed was the head of the ship. And on the basic structure, yes, the head of the ship is the only thing that's changed. To prove this point, paying attention, this is now the Vor'cha. A little bit underwhelming, right? But on closer inspection, you will notice that there are a lot of special trimmings and details that show this ship is a higher class of Vor'cha class. Now, this is nice because it means you can put random trimmings on different elements of your Vor'cha if you want to have a Vor'cha look, but with a little bit of extra pop to it. You can also use the Kamarag if you want a more of a D7 look. I know some of you really do appreciate that idea. We have the Torkat, which I think a lot of us will give a pass to, but I do know some like it. The Vor'cha, of course, and Vor'cha Beta, which I do really appreciate. The Vor'kang, which is one of my favourites. The Voral, again one of my favourites. Does anyone want to point out, though, that the Klingons have accidentally made this new hull aesthetic look a lot like Deep Space Nine? I mean, if I turn my black panels red, that'll be a little bit too auspicious. So, let's get on to the stats before Klingon decides to take my head off with a bat'leth. We have a Tier 6 Battlecruiser type vessel with a base hull at level 65 of 65,250. Her hull and shield modifiers respectively are hull, 1.45 and shield 1.1. She has a turn rate of 10 and an impulse modifier of 0.15. Inertia rating 30 with bonus power settings plus 10 to weapons and plus 10 to engines. She comes equipped with 5 forward weapon banks and 3 aft weapon banks, 3 device slots available to her, and her console layout is impressively set up: 4 tactical, 4 engineering, 3 science. Now, some of you may have already noticed that her stats are quite similar to the legendary Excelsior. Don't get me wrong, though they do seem similar, she has her own advantages that is actually going to make her stand out quite differently from the Excelsior. You're not essentially getting 2 of the same ship in one bundle. Let's keep going. Like I've already said, her weapon layout is better for DPS with the 5 and 3, and her turn rate being 10 is giving her a superior turn rate over that Excelsior. But with her hull and shields being able to match that, her only real weakness is the fact that she is slightly lacking in this science department, but this is a Klingon vessel. And so her support potential, though, is down a little bit when we get on the bridge officers. This isn't to say you can't bring her support potential back. In fact, I would almost say this Vor'cha is superior to the Excelsior. I don't necessarily like saying that, as I'm a bit of a Federation guy, but okay. What does this really mean? Well, to keep going, we've got the Battle Cloak on this ship, giving us superior DPS potential here. Inspirational abilities from her command specialization. I'm not actually a fan of command, so take of that what you will. I won't really comment on that because I don't want to show bias there. But her bridge officer positions are favourable, I would say, with a Lieutenant Commander Tactical, a Commander Engineering Command Specialization, Ensign Science, but a Lieutenant Commander Universal and a Lieutenant Universal Miracle Worker Specialization. Now, I may not be a fan of Command, but I'm definitely a fan of Miracle Workers. So to see that specialization option there is nice, and I'm sure that will help out some people's builds. Overall, what does this mean for the ship stats wise? Well, we're looking at a ship with much greater DPS potential than the Excelsior counterpart. In fact, we're looking at a ship with a lot of DPS potential if you know what you're doing. Certainly speaking, after X upgrading, this ship is going to be a mighty beast. Honestly, on the DPS line of things, I would say she tactical DPSs excessively well. Side DPS is very similar, though will require a little bit more knowledge on your part. As for tanking, she matches the Excelsior in literally every way, making, quite frankly, a good vessel for tank builds. In fact, thanks to her actual setup on consoles as well, she's got potential for hybrid tank builds as well. So I do expect to see hull tanks, some shield tanks, regenerative tanks, and hybrid hull shield tanks. Just because there is a lot that you can do with this ship in the tanking perspective of things, and still generate plenty of threat generation due to her sort of innate DPS potential that is just sitting there. Finally, if we get into support, this is kind of the weak spot, but depends on how you use it. Use the command specialization right and you will gain a decent level of support out of it. As for the universal positions and the bridge officers, that is where you're going to find most of your support coming from. I do believe it will be capable of building drain and control builds relatively well with this ship, but I would hesitate to say that this ship is actually superior when it comes to support heals and support regenerative builds, which allow you to keep your allies that are taking a bit too much damage alive. Yes, that is a thing. That was actually what I first specialised in with support builds. People don't really appreciate it though, it's kind of why I stopped. It's nice to know that this ship is quite capable of things that you don't see too often of though. I feel like Cryptic thought a bit when they were putting this ship together. So, that is the stats. How about the consoles? Now, this ship comes with the same console as her... I'm actually almost hesitant to say this, that's awkward. As her ambassador counterpart. Now that does disappoint me. But we'll get into it. So, what the ship comes with, please excuse my build, it is experimental at the moment. It comes with the Temporal Trajectory Shifter, which has the passive abilities of plus 10 to defense and plus 50 to Starship Science Readiness. A support trait, if you will. However, it may be a support trait, but it is also good for relative DPS builds and for hybrid DPS. This is because this is going to, one, help your scientific sides, but also help your tactical sides. You will steal weapon haste, defense, and cooldowns. So to your foe, for a maximum of 15 seconds totaled, you get 520.7 physical damage ignoring shields per second. That's a decent amount of little exotic damage going on there. Weapon firing speed is slowed by 30%, well, by a third, 33.3%. With ability cooldown slowed by 1% per second. And defense decreased by 50. However, to yourself for 15 seconds, the exact opposite. Your weapon firing speed is hastened by 50%. Your ability cooldowns are hastened by 20%. And your defense rating is increased by plus 50. This is actually a very strong console. And the only reason I'm not using it in this present build is because this present build of mine is focused heavily on the anti-proton side of things, and I'm boosting that up as much as I can. It's my choice to make. Don't worry about it. You see what this ship can do. Overall, I would suggest this console as a useful one to be used by support or DPS players. Finally, this one is for those that like to do a different kind of damage. And electrical, as you know, is one of my personal preferences when it comes to exotic type damage. The isometric charge console has no passive effect, but the active chain effect is relatively powerful. Chaining electrical damage for within a 120 degree arc. First target will be hit for just over 9,000 electrical damage. Second target will be hit for just under 15,000. And the third target will be hit for just over 20,000. On the fourth target, you deal 25,000 worth of electrical damage, and it will detonate to affect foes in the nearby radius of 2.5 kilometers, with the damage decreasing from distance from the center. Bounces randomly on foes within 3 kilometers of each other. So this console is both very strong, but has a fundamental weakness. If you want to hit the most targets, you need to be combining this with control expertise and control abilities. Without that kind of thing being used, you're going to find this console is not the greatest, as you're going to do extremely heavy damage to 2 targets. Now, it's a great way of taking out flagships. Yes, this console will take down big, more meaty carriers quite quickly. But when you've got multiple targets and you need to be getting those numbers down, its short bouncing range of 3 kilometers is probably its weakness. I do like the console, and I used it for a very long time when I was new to the game. It's not 100% one I would recommend now for DPS builds though. In fact, I tend to only advise it on control builds where you're looking for a little bit of extra DPS and you don't really have a better option. Now then, From that, let's talk about the actual masteries. And let's not do what I did with the Excelsior. To avoid doing what I did with the Excelsior, we're going to talk about the 6th level mastery first. Good day to die. Perhaps today is a good day to die. Very Klingon of you. Sorry about that random voicing. I know some people don't like me doing that. Can you tell I'm nervous? So, incoming damage causes a plus damage and plus incoming healing. So, once per second, when damaged, you get plus 1.5% bonus all damage for 10 seconds and plus 5% incoming healing for 10 seconds. Can stack up to 10 times. So we're looking at, it's not bad. You can get to about 50% bonus all damage and 50% incoming healing. That's not bad. But that's relying on your incoming healing. If that boosts with regeneration and can boost your regeneration cycle, then that's great. The bonus all damage part makes me think would make me think that's a DPS kind of trait, but I do feel like this is more one for the tanks. A good day to die is one for the tanks more than anything else. That's my personal perspective on it though. I'm pretty sure that plenty of you will disagree with me. Now, we also have the History Will Remember trait. Awkwardly, this is the same trait you get from the legendary ambassador. Sorry about that. But okay, let's cover it here still, regardless. Plus damage, plus maximum HP, and plus regen. History Will Remember. Now, you know what? This isn't a bad trait. For each foe that damages you, you gain a stack of 1 History Remember that will stack up to 30 times. Which grants you the following: plus 1% all damage, plus 1% hull regeneration, and increases maximum hull by 1%. Plus 10% threat generation while threatening is active. So this is a extremely good tank trait, but is also very good for DPS. In fact, combined with Honoured Dead, this can make a DPS build very difficult to take out. It is one of the ones that I do like to use in combination with certain builds, but that's up to you whether or not you want to try using it. Honestly, I do consider the trait quite good, but I'm a weird person when it comes to builds. So, I am losing track of myself a little bit here. This is because I'm talking about something that disappoints me. Let's get this ship into action. So, before we go into action, final conclusion that I've got so far for you. We're looking at a very good tank, a very good DPS, and as far as consoles and traits go, they're all useful for DPS players, but the traits are more tank and the consoles are more support. So, let's go. Okay, so let's take her into action. This is a very heavily anti-proton focused build. Probably not the best. I wish I could be doing a disruptor build with her, but I do not have the stuff to show this off properly. So let's see what she can do. Hee-hee! Well, they didn't last long, did they? Again, this build is heavily focused upon DPS alone. At testing, I have found that she's doing about between about 30 to 40k for my personal support DPS build, which I'm not going to complain too much. I'm not going to complain about too much. She's a little bit soft in damage, but here. When I say soft in damage, I mean soft in the amount of damage she can take. But as you can see, she doesn't really leave ships standing that long. And I think that's since she is support DPS, which is supposed to be focused more on control and then destroy, at the moment I am missing a lot of my control ability. Excuse me? Whoopsie! Yeah. She would probably do the most damage if I had her flying with fire at will. But hey, I kind of like the fact that I'm using Biol anti-proton, so I don't use fire at will. Instead, I just let the energy bounce. At least I only have to focus on one target at a time. Look! Then I get the one next to it. If that ship isn't destroyed, I'll be embarrassed. Okay, let's figure out what I'm trying to say here. Final thoughts and conclusion. My conclusion is quite simple. She's an absolutely amazing ship. She really is. Definitely a ship I would recommend to tanks and DPS players. Not so much support. Okay, let's get into it. Size her weak spot. So, starting off, if we talk science support roles and just support in general, I'm afraid I'm only going to give her 6. Yeah, 6 out of 10. Just because to get any decent level of support capability out of her, you have to really sacrifice from her DPS and her endurances. Her damage has to be sacrificed, her endurance has to be sacrificed, and that's not good for support vessel. If you don't do enough damage, you get yourself in trouble with TFOs because you've not done enough damage, and you get that apparently idling punishment. And if you sacrifice endurance, you're not going to be much of a support vessel when you're blowing up all the time. Kind of a problem there. Now, away from support's weak spot, we could talk about DPS. DPS is going to be the ones that also kind of going to score okay with me. So, side DPS is a weak spot, obviously, same as support. And that will get 6.5 out of 10 for me, just because we are focusing now on the DPS side of things. And side DPS can be augmented by the tactical side and be improved as a result. So she does have better side DPS potential. I might... actually, I'll give her 7 out of 10. I'll give her 7 out of 10 just because, yeah, it is actually there. As far as tactical DPS goes, that gets a lot better for me. That gets 8.5 out of 10. There's a lot of potential for her. She doesn't quite score up at 9. To get to 9, she'll need to have a better tactical consoles, slightly higher turn rate, and she could have hit 10 if she had intelligent specialization or had been a miracle worker vessel. If she'd been that, I would have given her 9 or 10 quite easily there. Now, tanking is where I feel a bit weird, considering this ship is obviously a battlecruiser and definitely feels like it wants to be an aggressive attack vessel. Tanking is actually one of her absolute strongest areas. She can shield tank really well, despite her scientific weaknesses, and as a result, I will give her 7.5 out of 10 for shield tanking. I will also give her 9 out of 10 for hull tanking, because her hull tankingness is just through the roof, and if you X upgrade her and boost up her engineering side even more, you're just going to find this ship just probably doesn't want to die. My overall score for this vessel is 9 out of 10 because she is such a bleedingly good vessel. Ability to take individual elements and create some amazing hybrid builds, and she is going to be one of these... I feel like she's going to be one of these ones we see a lot of in the coming days, because yes, she is actually a really good vessel. I still feel like the Excelsior is the best vessel in the pack, but I'm starting to think this ship is just a little bit better than the Bird of Prey, which is the next ship I'll be looking at. So, guys, let me know what you think. I would love to hear in the comment sections what you think of the Chronos 1, our legendary Vor'cha, if you're happy with her, if you're disappointed. And hopefully you've enjoyed this video enough that you'll consider hitting that like button and subscribing to see more of this in the future. I try to put out these videos as often as I can. And I do get a real kick out of doing this. This is my hobby, here to entertain you guys. Can I just say a huge thank you to all of you that have decided to watch to the end of this video. I really do appreciate that support. And to the people currently credited on the screen, a further massive thank you for your generosity and financial support of the channel. My Patreons, my donors, my Twitch subscribers. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to be still making these videos. I really do appreciate the support. Hopefully guys, I'll see you both here on YouTube again, and maybe over on Twitch, Twitter, or in the Discord. Remember, I look forward to seeing you guys in the future. And please, fight with honor. Kapla. Ciao for now.